And when the music ends, that means it's us.
Whoa, wait. Oh, I'm awake. I'm awake.
Yeah, we're here. We're here. Welcome, everybody, to Talking Trains. This is TSG Live, Talking Trains, coming at you on the third Wednesday of the month, every month, right here on YouTube. And I have a special guest co host once again. We've been doing this for the past couple of months. And this time, it's my buddy, James Regier. And welcome, James. Thank you for coming. Maybe since I know you've been on the show at least once before or on a show.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was this one or not, but why don't you tell the people a little bit about you and we'll go from there.
Well, so, I live in St. Louis, of course. For the last several years, I guess after my daughter was born, I've worked at the Magic House Children's Museum, managing the model train layout there. Currently, I edit for Model Railroad Hobbyist magazine. And I've frequently been on the What's Neat show with Ken Patterson as well. And so I've just done all sorts of things, having fun with the hobby.
I think what people would remember most, what I remember most, well, I remember a lot of things the most because we've known each other. I think you've been commenting on my videos for at least 8 or 10 years now.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Maybe more. But I remember.
Flies.
Sorry?
Time flies.
Yeah. I remember the Trackmobile. That thing's crazy. So what I'm talking about is James built or installed DCC and lights and all the stuff into a Trackmobile. That's that thing that's about this big.
Right.
And did a bang up job on that thing. So
yeah, I just hope it continued to work after I handed it off to James Wright. He hasn't complained to me yet, so
yeah. Well, I mean, he's also busy. The poor guy is so busy.
Yes, he is.
I had forgotten that you did that work for him. That's pretty cool. So another YouTuber.
Yeah. No, it happened. He had a Trackmobile he was wanting to have lights done on, and I was like, well, hey, I've never done that kind of project before. I'd give it a whirl. And so, like 3 months later,
right? What's cool is that you got to document the process and show people what you did.
So, yeah.
Where can people find that? Was that a series that you did with Patterson, or what was that?
That was on that was on Ken's What's Neat show on Model Railroad Hobbyist magazine,
the monthly thing.
And I think it appeared in September of 2020, if not October 2020.
There you go. Cool. In case people are wondering, that would be worth looking at, because you did a lot of, I thought, kind of. Well, I mean, I don't know how many people could shoehorn a decoder into one of those things, let alone do all the lighting that you did. So good work.
Just the wiring alone, trying to pack that and the decoder into the cab of that little Trackmobile was a task.
Yep, quite challenging. I like seeing stuff like that though, because it's something you don't see every day. So
yeah. And then the other complicating factor is those little Trackmobiles are entirely die-cast metal.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely everything on there is a conductor. So
right?
if your wires are not isolated perfectly, you've got a blown decoder on your hands. And
lots of Kapton tape and
we'll keep it between George Bogatuck and me just how many I went through.
Oh, oh man. Well. Oh, well, guess that's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
For somebody anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So anyway, I wanted to give people an idea just in case they didn't know who you were. I can't imagine most of the people watching probably know who you are. They probably know who James Wright is. They probably know who the person we're going to bring on here in a minute is.
Oh, yeah.
But we're really here today to talk about the St. Louis prototype modelers meet, and that's something that I understand it may be the biggest prototype modelers meet in North America, and I know we have a local one, and it only goes for one afternoon.
Yeah,
whereas the St. Louis one goes for 2 whole days, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes Friday and Saturday, and there's events going on Thursday night even, and yeah. It traditionally begins with a barbecue dinner at one of the local joints. I think it's Bandana's Barbecue, and on Thursday night, and then Saturday or Friday all day, and Saturday all day, and then ends at Ken Patterson's place, where everyone just kind of hangs out on the bluff and chats it up.
Well, and that makes sense, right? Because he records his shows on Saturday nights, so
Right.
that would be a great culmination to the whatever celebration or whatever.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Right
on. Well, so this year, our mutual friend Bernard Hellen from miniprints was there, and I understand you guys had some adventures. So what I wanted to do for this episode of Talking Trains was to have you both on. So why don't I bring Bernard in here, and we'll start. I want to hear about this, so let's just bring him on. Oh,
hey,
it's the tumbleweed.
How are you?
It's my tumbleweed fan.
Doing all right.
Yeah, I like tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
So far, so good.
Doing all right.
But I got to tell you guys, I usually mention this when I start the show when Michelle's on. It's really hot today here, so I have my air conditioner on, and that's why I'm wearing my headphones. I don't really think they're cool. I just think that they let me hear with the air conditioner running. So,
Yeah.
You're looking good.
oh yeah, yeah. I can detect lies. You're looking good too, Bernard.
Oh, wow. Thanks. That's what she said.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about this. Yeah, you can't take him anywhere. Let's. Oh, look what we had. We have Jennifer doing the. Well, we're at it. I'm going to mention just real quickly. Rail Graphics is Jennifer Howell. She was our guest co-host last month, and did a really great job sharing her pictures and such. Just wonderful. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here today in the studio audience. Oh.
Did we talk about the rattlesnake study?
The what, last month?
Rattlesnake study.
Yeah. Did you know that rattlesnakes, actually, they've done a study, and they're actually calmer and more chill when they're hanging out with a friend?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, apparently they're like social creatures, and they feel less stress when they're all curled up in a ball together.
Well, I like to
cracking
snuggle
open
too.
the little beers and
Rattlesnake
Hanging out
beers.
together.
Rattlesnake beers get open like that.
That's right. They got to be careful not to shake it up too much,
That's right.
Yeah, it gets foamy. Then they're
Yeah.
foamers.
Yeah.
Ooh,
There
now
we
that's
go.
almost a segue.
Yeah. So let's talk about other foamers. That would be you guys.
Well, what do you want to talk about?
Should I bring up your little presentation now, or should you give us a little intro about, like, why did you go, Bernard? Like, did you do scans of people, or what was your story there?
I did. I love RPMs. I've been to 2 of them before, and like you alluded to, this is the RPM of all RPMs. So there's something about an RPM that's really fun, and it was a great excuse to do a road trip. James, we had hooked up just like a month before. Was it less than a month even?
Yeah, something like that. It was at the YouTube meet and greet.
Yeah, so it was like in May. So I guess it wasn't that too long ago. And when I saw how much fun James was in person, and some of the other characters that came down, it's a place I'd never been. RPMs are awesome. James and some of his St. Louis friends, I keep saying St. Louis, but I guess it's St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah.
St. Louis.
Do you speak French too, eh?
Un petit peu, but
Saint Louis?
Yeah, Saint Louis.
So someone's asking a question that we should answer.
Oh,
that's revolutions per minute, and that's the number of times your car's motor rotates.
No. It's real precise machine.
I thought it was rattlesnakes per meter.
Oh, how many rattlesnakes per meter? Yeah. Okay, so let's tell people what it really means, because someone out there probably is wondering stop being a smartass. What are they really talking about? It's railroad prototype
rail
modelers.
Prototype modelers meat. So it's essentially a meet for specifically for the rivet counters in the hobby, the folks that are really trying to get the prototype right in their modeling. And you'll see a lot of people that have brought various freight cars and equipment, and have weathered it based off of the specific number on that car and off of photos that they have of that car. Or they've modeled specific locomotives, or specific recognizable locations.
And it tends to be sort of the Academy Award or the best of the best. Not to say that there's not great stuff out there that may not make it to an RPM, but when you're at an RPM, it's like eye candy. You're definitely a kid in a candy store, because you're kind of like, if you're at all distracted by shiny objects, there are always a lot of shiny objects in there.
Oh yeah.
Something I've noticed at our local prototype modelers meet, it's called the Bay Area Prototype Modelers Meet. We call it BAPM, BAPM, right? Bay Area Prototype Modelers. And you go to look at the first table, you're like, ooh. Then you go to look at the next table, you're like, oh, that's even better. You know, it's like every table has something on it that you're really just blown away by. And I think there's something interesting. I don't know how much this played into this whole prototype modelers thing, but I know that my friend Jack Barges, that has the Yosemite Valley model railroad out here, I think took that whole idea of modeling a prototype to a completely different place where it had never been before. Because the scenes on his layout, it's not just the equipment, but it's also the buildings are accurate per the drawings that he managed to find, blueprints and stuff like that.
Right. Even trackside cranes for transloading logs, that sort of thing, that he built there based off of photographs or remnants or best guesses of what they might have been.
Yeah.
And that's one of the fun things too, is that I feel like a railroad, an RPM, if you've never been, it's kind of a mix of things. Part of it to me is a history lesson, because you'll see that people typically will find something interesting or obscure or different, and they'll model it, but then they'll show all of their photographic references.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll definitely like it. It's eye candy. It's a history lesson. It's an emotional roller coaster. I mean, you'll go from table to table and you'll be like feeling, for me anyway, it was like at one point the emotion is like, oh, I can't wait to go home and model. And then you get to the next one. It's like, okay, I'm going to go home and just toss everything out. I quit. And it's like you're going through these undulating waves of like, that's it, I'm done. And then, it's like you're totally inspired. So it's an incredible event to experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that I find kind of interesting about prototype modeling is, and I've seen this, where someone will have a model and they'll have a picture that they've done the model to look like. Mm-hmm. And it's remarkable how close some people can get with those things. But something that I find a little bit ironic is it's just that one picture. So what they've done is they've modeled a particular piece of equipment, usually, to what it looked like that day.
Right. Because a snapshot in time. Yeah.
Right. Because it could be easily the next day, it could have looked different, because it could have gone through a storm or or it could have been in a wreck. You never know. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen to these things. And it just seems a little, I don't know. It just seems kind of weird to me that people are, that it's that specific, really. I mean, it's like I was mentioning Jack Barges. People make fun of him, like, oh no, he's down to the specific hour of the specific day, the specific month of the specific year. It's not all that. It's really just a month and a year. But there's a lot of really good reasons to do that, which we can get into later. But I'm just
I mean, one of the great reasons to do that is just purely an economic reason. that if you set yourself to an exact date, time, and and that sort of thing, then you don't need to go chasing after the shiny objects that came out after your era or would no longer have been in use by your era. So that you can kind of save your dough because you just can't justify it.
Right, but James, I model Quebec Gatineau, which is a modern day Genesee and Wyoming short line between Montreal and Quebec City. But I really, really, really want a big boy.
Well,
but you have me, Bernard.
Well, it's constraining. I love the fact that
I'm right here, Bernard. I mean,
yeah. Okay, let me be more specific. I want 4014 on my layout.
Oh, well, that's where modeler's license comes in, right? Rule 1 is it's your layout, so you can do what you want. But I think James brought up a great point.
And also Bernard, talk to Ed Dickens. He can surely bring the big boy out. Roll it along your prototype route there, and
I asked him, and I don't think it's ever been east of Chicago.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. So I was trying to justify it, but I don't think we're going to get here into Eastern Canada somehow. Central Eastern Canada.
I think big boys were made for Sherman Hill, weren't they? I thought they were made like for that stretch going from Wyoming to Utah, but I don't really know the history of the big boys that much. I'm sure someone out there does.
Right. Now Robert Martin is making an important point here. I want to say that that the RPM, like, it's not a contest.
Never has been.
Yeah, it's everybody. It's like everybody shows up. They bring their models that they've been working on and talk about them, and that sort of thing. So it's like there's not really that angle. I mean, to say there's no competition to it is probably inaccurate because people go to the same meet year after year and they want to try to outdo each other, obviously, but there's no official competition to it. It's just it's just kind of a friendly thing where you bring your models and show them off. Yeah.
I'd say it's a show and tell with camaraderie more than anything, right? I mean, if I brought a model that had some type of weathering, sorry, Bernard, I heard you were going to say something, but we talked at the same time, so I just kept going. If you bring a model and I want to do something similar, and I asked you, you would tell me how you did it. I mean, there's no secrets with people like at these places that I've seen. So, which is cool. I like that sort of a place to learn, right?
As a matter of fact, I was going to say it was actually, they had clinics, and I don't think I've ever seen an RPM before. I mean, this was kind of the super RPM ball RPMs, because usually at an RPM you'll get big long tables spread out where people show their models. But what made this one sort of unique and interesting for me anyway, based on what I'd seen, is that there was a whole vendor area of manufacturers and retailers, but then there was a whole clinic stream where, not to exactly to your point, John, people were talking about techniques and things that they did. And I'd never seen an RPM with such a robust clinic schedule. It almost actually felt like a convention.
Yeah, and there's always a table as well in the vendor section where it's just a group of guys just weathering their models, sort of teaching the techniques and tricks into how that's done.
That's cool. I haven't seen that before at our local RPM, but at our RPM we have vendors and we have clinics. As a matter of fact, I don't remember what year it was now. It had to be 8 or 9 years ago, something like that. That was the first time I met George Bogatuk in person. He knew who I was. I guess he must be a YouTube junkie or something, or was at the time. And he introduced himself and introduced me really to soundtracks, because I hadn't really used a lot of soundtrack stuff at that point. But he introduced me to that, and we've done some projects together, and it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know that I would have met him. Well, I guess I would have met him at the National in 2019. But the point is, it's cool to meet people at these places too.
Right.
So.
Right, and to get up to the folks from Rapido, for example, and talk to them about the models that are coming out, and tell them what models you'd like to see, and them telling you, yeah, right, there's no market for that.
Well, I
But,
mean, yeah, the reality of making money does have to
right. Yeah.
kick
Unfortunately,
in at
right.
at some point. I'm waiting for someone to come out with a TSG line.
A TSG line.
Yeah, TSG line. I want locomotives and boxcars and all that stuff.
Well, I think, boy, what was his name up in Altona, Manitoba, who makes custom decals?
Bill Brillinger,
Bill Brillinger, that's right.
PDC.ca. He does great work.
Yeah, so you can get a bunch of if you order a certain number of products from Rapido, you can get them undecorated.
Yeah, Atlas
And
does the
then
same
you can
thing. I
make
think
your TSG line of whatever you want.
No, I didn't say I want to do it. I want someone else to do it. I don't have time for that.
There's no TSG boxcar yet.
There should be, but there isn't.
There will be.
There's gonna be. Actually, you know what? There's gonna be. Now you're gonna laugh when I tell you this because I know how your brain works a lot like mine. There's gonna be a TSG climax. See, I knew you were gonna do that. I'm talking about a garden scale Bachmann geared engine climax, right? You know, not what you're thinking. There's going to be one at some point in the near future.
No, not too early, though.
What do you mean? Oh, don't. Yeah. It won't come early. It won't be premature at all.
I forget what it's called, but there's a system for railroad reporting marks. It's kind of like the Dewey Decimal System of railroads. I forget what it's called. Someone out there will know and comment on what it's called. And I'm just looking right now, and I believe TSGX, X for the leasing company, is available. So you can go register your TSGX boxcar right now.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I mean, it'll happen someday. Actually, this guy that I used to do videos with a long time ago started making a TSG railroad collection. And it was pretty cool. Yeah. I'm sure he's probably deleted erased it all off of his cars by now.
I'll interchange with you.
Yeah. Do you have what's your railroad called, Bernard? Your layout?
Well, I model Quebec Atnos. So
you know what, John? Chris Palmieri.
Yeah.
With his home shops, he could do TSG boxcars and.
Yeah. Do you know how he does? I mean, we've had him on this very show once a while back, and he sent me this beautiful print of home shops. I have it framed in my office over here.
Right.
And do you know how that works? I should have asked him. I wasn't thinking about doing this at the time, but I wonder how that works. Doesn't it have to be something that's somewhat known, though, so people actually want to buy it?
Right. There has to be some calculation involved. I think they're the better known model railroad layouts and clubs out there that have been well published and that sort of thing.
Well, TSG is pretty well published. I got 30 DVDs and 2,000 videos on YouTube.
It might be worth a shot. Sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we need a TSGX write-in campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know there was for a while this value trains.
They printed right on the side of the cars, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They printed right on the side of the cars. They had, and I'm not sure who the manufacturer of those cars was, but at any rate, yeah, they did one for James Wright and Patterson as well.
I remember seeing those. Yeah.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, they did a whole bunch of fantasy Union Pacific schemes as well, and then got to hear from Union Pacific's lawyers.
I wonder if that has anything to do with why they're not around anymore.
I do wonder about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that what they did with those Union Pacific heritage paint schemes was kind of cool, but I remember seeing it going, someone's going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to have to license it, John, before you have to get your lawyers involved.
Oh, I'll license it. I just have to. It's like those political ads. It's me, and I've approved this message, right?
Yeah.
But the ones that were being made by Dan, the guy that used to do the videos with me, were really cool. He did a good job with those things. They were all N scale. I think we had one garden scale Shay that he had lettered up for TSG, but you know, that's before reporting marks. So it was just like TSG number 5 or something. I don't remember what number it was, but it was a 2-truck Shay that also looked really good.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So, but tell me more about this RPM. I mean, I know that I know it's the biggest one, or I'm pretty sure it's the biggest one out there. What's the story with that? Do you know, like, how long has it been going?
As far as I can tell, like it's your graphic that you had for the RPM meet said for sure. What was it?
Oh,
2000
Since 2004, I think.
2004.
Oh, that's all? So it's barely 20 years almost. Huh.
Yeah.
I figured it would have been longer than that. But I guess thinking about that, though, how long have people really been paying that close of attention to prototype railroading, model railroading?
Right. I mean, it's amazing how far the hobby has come really in the last 15 years or so in terms of getting more exact details readily available on various cars. Like there was no tangent models 20 years ago. There was, you know, a bunch of these different companies that have, you know, put everything down into the nth detail. I mean, I think Intermountain was around. And there were a few of them that were getting into the details back then, but Intermountain was really kind of revolutionary when they came out, just how finely detailed everything was. I think my dad and I got a kit, I think when I was in high school or something like that, of one of the Canadian National Wheat Board hopper cars, those cylindrical hoppers. One of my uncles from Canada got that for me, or for Dad, and I can remember all the swear words as we tried to assemble those tiny little grab irons and put them into the models, and that was something we had never seen before.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, I think too, I have a theory about this, John, and I think the internet too, and Google Images, and I mean, it's allowed us to really sort of go deep on the research. So, you know, before, you know, it was really hard to sit in the basement and model that one prototypical, you know, 44-ton switcher at a cement works, you know, halfway across the continent. But now, you know, you can pretty much research anything to the 9th degree. And the internet has really allowed us, you know, through other technologies, but especially the internet has really allowed, I think, this whole prototypical railroading to explode, because we can go down the rabbit hole like never before.
No, it's true. I mean, the internet, just look at railroadpictures.net. I mean, you can get a picture of almost anything you want.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know when I was working on this beep locomotive here that I had at the RPM meet, you know, just the research I was able to conduct on the internet was very helpful in getting that together. Because I may have seen it, you know, maybe in the 90s when I was working in the shops in Topeka a couple of times, but I've never photographed it or, you know, really gotten that close to it. But there were all these photos available online of it, and you know, and then even more, you know, I was able to talk to Stephen Priest, who worked on it a number of years, had taken a number of excellent photos of it, and then a fellow who was regularly out at the museum there in San Bernardino, I think it is, no, Barstow, where it's currently at rest. And he sent me a ton of pictures as well. So I mean, those have all been helpful resources that just simply would not have existed, in, you know, prior to probably 2004. You know.
I have no proof for this, so I'll make up a statement and we can agree or disagree or debate it or see what people think. But I'll bet, just my own thoughts, I bet more railroad layouts were more alike years ago, and they're more different today. And I say that because in the past, you know, maybe you'd get something published in a magazine, but now there are so many different people doing so many different things that I bet you that the hobby's just sort of exploded in terms of, you know, no two railroads are alike, and people are just from my experience, people are just modeling obscure and different and special. And it's kind of like the whole hobby's just kind of gone in a million different directions.
And I'd say especially since the explosion of shelf layouts,
Yes.
versus a huge bench worked, table or that kind of thing that would take up an entire room. Now being able to wrap it around a room, having it maybe a foot to 18 inches deep, really really allows you to have that layout over a longer, more extended space, and be able to scenic it differently than you could before.
Yeah, we can probably draw a curve of the 4x8 over the last 40 years and just watch it go
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's one for you guys. I just brought this up on my other screen. Have you seen this? There's an example of someone doing totally different. Now we're going to go off, and I'm going to close this because I don't want to go off in these weeds right now. But this is a friend of mine that did a layout tour on my channel of a layout that was done in black and white. I've never seen anything like that before. It was so original and so unusual that I thought, oh my goodness, we have to show this. So
kind of takes you into the era a little bit, I guess.
It does. And part of the reason behind this person's thinking was the city of San Francisco sent a professional photographer out to photograph the Hetch Hetchy. And so he has all these really high quality, big blown up pictures that look good blown up because they were done by a professional photographer, but they're all black and white. So he used those pictures as his backdrops, and you see the picture and then you see his model of it. And it's a remarkable example of someone doing something different. Again, it's kind of tangential to what we're talking about because it's not really modeling the prototype really accurately. I mean, his is narrow gauge and the Hetch Hetchy was standard gauge. There's a lot of differences, but the fidelity between his models and the pictures is there, right? So it's just an example of someone doing something. To your point, Bernard, of someone doing something that's totally different.
I mean, this has always, to me, been a bit of a niche hobby, but what I think is happening is that there are niches within the niches within the niches. And I think that because of the internet and because of all the technology and all a million different things we could talk about, it's like the niches are just multiplying. And that's what I really saw at the RPM. Like I saw things at the RPM that I never would have imagined that people would model. And I mean, one of them that jumps to mind is an entire road construction scene, with all the equipment. And it was a niche within a niche within a niche within a niche. And it was spectacular. It was one of my favorite things.
Did you get any pictures of that on the video that we have to show?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We should bring that up then. I'm going to bring that up. Is that okay? Are you ready for it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I thought that it could just be, so what this is, I'll give it a little bit of introduction. So this is simply a video that I took, and it's available on here, I'll start it here. So here are the tables. You can see the tables. So I stripped off all the audio so you don't need to hear, the background stuff. But this was just me escaping from my booth for about half an hour and walking around and doing video of some of the models that were there. And we can just kind of use this, even though there's no audio, as background music, and just sort of talk over top of it. And you can get a sense of some of the things that were there.
It's like B-roll.
It's totally B-roll.
Yeah.
And what I expected, just from the RPMs I'd been to before, I expected what you're seeing now, which is, models on a table. So I figured, someone would do a rather obscure freight car, passenger car, and show a picture of it beside it of what it looked like, to your point, on October 31st, 1937. But what I didn't expect were these incredible dioramas, these scenes that, people generated that were just like layouts.
Yeah. And, one of the more awesome dioramas that has made regular appearances at the RPM, wasn't even there this year, was Sam Dennehy. He always does a bunch of movie cars. He has every version of the Ghostbusters Ectomobile from every film that's, fully lit and functioning. He has the Ghostbusters firehouse, but he also has all the Blues Brothers vehicles, and basically many of the film cars that you can think of. He's just done such an outstanding job of modeling each of them. I think he also has the ZZ Top Eliminator hot rod as well as part of his collection.
And you'd see that, and speaking of George, I think here's George's,
yeah.
Here's George. Yeah. George did something kind of interesting because a lot of people modeled things and then showed the photograph. I guess there were no photographs of what he modeled. So right. I guess back then in the day of this, you didn't have a photograph. You had like an etching or a drawing of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Oh, I thought
this was the general, and this was a locomotive from the great locomotive chase in the Civil War, and George actually approached me on this to ask me to make the builder plates for that locomotive.
Oh, cool! Design
them in 3D and print them for him.
Do you know what he should have done? He should have just had a sign that said "Trust me."
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the guy who did all the cars, because you'd sort of see that people had interests. You'd have a person who did, was super into vehicles or farm equipment or construction equipment, or everybody would have their little sort of, as I'll say, the niche within the niche, right? So it was very rare to find somebody that had a little bit of everything. What you'd find is, okay, here's the guy that's doing 19th century horse and buggies, and he'd have a ton of them, and here's the person who's doing, modern day construction equipment, and you'd get all of these neat little sort of deep dives into these different subject matters.
Now, did you get to see that gentleman? He was near that space shuttle. He had cranes that he 3D printed the components of, and a bulldozer that he'd 3D printed the components of it, and added motors and remote control function to them. And you could use that bulldozer and shove dirt around on his little diorama and leave the little bulldozer tracks in the dirt, which was pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Heath wants to know if you guys think prototype modeling is bigger than freelance modeling. What do you think?
That's a really good question.
I bet it isn't. I bet more people do freelance stuff or just make up stuff. I'm thinking of all the 4x8 layouts that are out there.
Yeah, I guess ultimately, even among prototype modelers, the freelance layout is probably still supreme, because once you get into a layout, there are so many limiting factors, right? That you automatically have to have one railroad to be prototypical, or you have to have this, that, and the other restriction, and then you have selective compression and all that. So, individual models you can get as prototypical as the day is long, but when it comes to actual layout, I think it tends almost automatically to more of a freelance arrangement.
I almost feel like everything's kind of proto-freelance because, like at the end of the day, if you're 100% prototypical, you're not going to get it all right. So there's a little freelance there. Well, and if you're 100% freelance, you're still running a railroad that's going to be based on real concepts. So it's kind of like everything's proto-freelance, but on different degrees. Like,
it's
from
a spectrum.
It's a spectrum. Exactly. Yeah.
I have a friend who argues that the moment you introduce any kind of compression or leave anything out, that it's no longer prototype, which I understand as an extreme argument makes sense. But I'm not going to tell someone like Jack Barges that his isn't prototypical.
Well, you pick your battles, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, just with the size constraints alone, if you look at even a decent size, small town grain elevator, right? How much of a layout is that going to take up?
It would take
a terminal elevator.
It would take up way too much.
Half a mile long.
Yeah. You'd have to have like a small warehouse or an abandoned grocery store or something to fit something really prototype sized.
Well, there you go. Something to do with all those abandoned shopping malls.
Oh, big model railroads. That I'm sure that the real estate developers would love that idea. Lots of money to be made.
I don't know whether we'll get to it, but at the end of my trip, I got the incredible pleasure of riding on an SW 1500 and switching.
Look at that! That is prototype. Holy wow!
That's what I was talking about.
That looks realistic. That's got to be the most realistic model of one-to-one model of a coffee mug.
Exactly. And that's, I think, probably what I said when I focused in on it.
Sorry, Bernard. I had a little squirrel moment there because something really amazing was on the screen. I think we should talk about your SW 1500 ride and talk about the ideas of, operating on an ops-based layout.
Well, it's interesting, and we can in a minute, but I think what I want to mention is I was driving by this facility, and they had 10,000 feet of track. And I went on to Google Maps and I thought, this is it. This is what I want to model. Like, I love these little. So this guy, for me, was the best modeler at the show in terms of what he displayed. I had the pleasure of scanning him actually. And
that's a lot of Buffalo Trace bourbon right there.
Yeah, and he actually has a mini print hanging from the tower. So there's a lot of tie-ins here with what he did. I love his work, but he had some spectacular stuff. But you're about to see one of my favorite things was he modeled a barge, and you'll see it coming up in a minute. And once again, this is the kind of unexpected stuff that I didn't really think that I would see at an RPM. Like you expect trains, but you don't expect boats. And I guess it's probably a Mississippi. Oh, there's a little mini prints Sasquatch that made an appearance there. So that's why I focused in on that.
Right.
But his modeling, I think, was exceptional. But what really caught my mind, and I love the little sort of dioramas he created, but this barge, these are the types of things that they were sort of surprising delights. They were really sort of neat things I didn't expect. But just back to this facility, I was passing by this sort of 10,000 foot track and this huge facility. I thought, I want to go home and model it. And then I did the calculation that if you prototypically modeled it, the actual layout in HO scale at 1 to 87.1 would be something like 120 feet in model size.
Yeah, and that's just one industry.
Yeah,
right?
Here's the barge.
Yeah, here's the barge. Look at this.
All lit and everything, like with the wake of that.
I mean, this blew my mind. This was something that I just looked at, and I mean, you're just looking at this is just beautiful model making.
Yeah,
that's my attempt at a drone shot.
one of the cool things at these meets, and this happens at a lot of things, also at train shows, and it's one of the, I think, real delights of going to these things is that you don't know what you're going to see, and there's always something like this where you're just like, that is so cool. I never would have thought of doing that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And that always makes it worthwhile to find that one gem.
This gentleman here had all sorts of old steam-powered construction equipment and that sort of thing. You had Hart Par tractors, a bunch of Best and Holt, their Forerunner Caterpillar. Quite a fascinating display that he had.
And are these 3D prints, or what are they?
Some are pewter models, some are 3D prints.
Huh.
I know that he bought a couple of the steam tractors from me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is Dwayne, and that was him on the screen a minute ago. Just another spectacular modeler.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that we have to say is, as spectacular as the models are, you're actually meeting and talking to the modelers. So, I mean, because at the end of the day, it's what we're doing right now. It's all about the people and the chatting and the shooting, the breeze. And so, I mean, most of the time you'll meet the artist. I'll use the word artist, really, standing there, and you can sort of talk about wow, how did you do that? Why did you do that? It's really fun talking to people about their inspiration.
Oh, for sure. That may be the best thing about. Well, also, well, whenever I go to a train show or the meet or any of these things, I run into people I haven't seen in a while. It's like, oh, I've been meaning to call them, but I just don't. I have such a small amount of time. I don't get to call anybody. I mean, there are people that I've been wanting to call or call back for weeks, and I just don't have time. So it's good to catch up with people in person. There's that camaraderie that I don't think you can get any other way than to be at a place like this.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know whether you want to just chat about other things or if you want me to scrub through. I have a thing for loads. So every time I'd see somebody who did, like amazing flat car loads or, like I would just zoom in and like look at the incredible detail. Some of it scratch built, some of it is 3D printed, some of it I'm sure is handmade, some of it is purchased. But, this was one of the tables where I just kind of went, whoa. And
yeah,
I was racing through this. I mean, you can freeze frame any of this.
Also, it's propane tanks there.
Yeah, is that cool? I was wondering, did they really do that? I mean, that's a really interesting way to ship like 12 propane tanks.
I'm sure they wouldn't have been loaded though.
Yeah, they probably would not have been full of propane, no.
Yeah.
Here's one of these incredible. This guy was all into MOW. So this is an example of like a niche within a niche.
I was trying to decide, did this same gentleman have a booth where he was selling some of his maintenance of way equipment? Because I think,
I don't know. The sad thing is I never made it over to the vendor tables. I didn't I got out of my booth because I was there scanning. So I got out of my booth for like 30 minutes. I didn't even get the whole, I got about 2/3 of the tables. I didn't even get to the end. So one of the things I've decided to do is I'm going back next year.
All right.
I'm going to cut the scanning in half and I'm going to spend at least a full half day just staring at stuff.
Well, yeah, you should bring the family, come a couple days earlier. We'll go to Grant's farm, see the Clydesdales and stuff. And
that would be amazing. I think I've talked my wife into coming down this time. Oh, here's some of the construction equipment in the back there.
Yes.
And I do come around. I can fast forward if you want.
Yeah, whatever you want to do, Bernard. You know what it is.
Well, that's...
Oh, there's my...
Hey, wait, we know that guy.
Wait a minute, I'm not fast forwarding through that. Hang on. All right.
See, and I gotta say that plane right there on the left, I think was the first. Yeah. Oh, you got it. Oh, don't
email at.
Yeah.
That was the first model I think, James, that I saw you do that plane with.
The propellers on that work. I'll grab it here.
Oh, do you have it there? Oh, this is great.
I have it here somewhere.
See, there we go. See,
he had a squirrel moment.
Yeah, we can freeze frame it. Let me just skip over this part and go to the construction equipment.
Right, do it while he's gone. Oh, he's back. You can't do it.
Oh, all right.
All right. I'll see if I can hold it and make it do its thing.
That's what she said. It works better when you hold it.
That's right.
I'm glad I did the video because now I can actually go back and look at all the stuff. You don't, it's overwhelming. You don't have time to really look at it.
So yeah,
here we go. Look at this. Looks familiar, James. Here, hold on. Let me bring you up. I think I can make you the full screen. There it is.
Yeah, it has sliding on the wings, but
oh, cool.
Are the propellers going to go?
Let me reorient the battery. I've got to repolarize it.
Oh, look how here. Let's do this. Okay, when he's ready, we'll bring him back.
So I have a question. I have a question for John. Are you going to go next year?
I don't know. After seeing this, I might try to make plans to do that.
Because we need your...
You totally should. Now, why is it not...
We need your professional videography, John. I mean, with your setup and your cart, you could do the show justice.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about bringing the video cart. I don't know. Do they have good internet there, James? Do you know what the facility is at that place?
Yeah, the internet's pretty good.
It really was.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Well, I don't know. I guess I'd have to talk to whoever organizes it and see if they want to do that.
Well, while James is playing with polarity in a good way, that's
All right, let's see here.
Is it going to work?
Well-
I feel so ripped off right now. Why did I invite you on this show?
hold on. Let's
I
just all
know.
go.
It's almost like
Yeah.
it's almost like shh on this.
John,
Yes.
one of the things that we have to say is that there was a team of about 6 or 8 guys that put this on,
Yeah.
and they were so organized. I mean, the organizing committee of this thing was amazing.
Yeah, here we go.
It's trying to go. It's trying to go. It's starting. I can hear it.
This is like Miracle on the Hudson.
Oh, should I need to make it bigger. Maybe it'll work.
Yeah, there
Oh,
we
there it
go.
goes.
There we go.
So there's the
The Germans shot out the other one.
no, the other ones. The idea is that they start up in prototypical sequence.
Oh,
So it actually starts off very slowly on purpose and jerkily,
here it goes.
There you
just
go.
because it's supposed to represent an actual DC3.
Now,
Did you say
how did-
jerkily? That's a
Yeah.
special. That's a special kind of snack, beef jerkily.
Yeah, beef jerkily. There we go.
Yeah, that is so cool. Look at this thing.
Now, did you do that with Arduinos, or how did
Yeah,
you?
it's an Arduino right here in this Altoids can.
That's amazing.
I love it. Really cool.
And I think I see what happened. That somehow the wires must have gotten a little bit loose over the years.
Yeah, because you've had that thing for what, about 8 or 9 years now?
Yeah, 2019 I built it.
Oh, that's only 4 years.
Yeah, but considering it gets moved around a lot, that also. But whoops! Now the battery fell off.
Uh-oh.
It's okay.
I'm,
But yeah,
I'm,
so here's the. I'll just take.
I'm sorry I asked you now, James. He's going to have to repair it now.
That's okay. The
This is live and unedited.
so yeah, this is
Oh,
Oh, cool.
that's the innard. So it's a little Arduino with a board that I built for it. And this was of course designed. The prototype for this was an old military DC-3 that the Santa Fe Railroad purchased circa 1947 to fly fruit from LA to Chicago in the Santa Fe Skyway, which was an experimental airline. Now, it's unclear what might have eventually developed out of this airline, but the Interstate Commerce Commission intervened and told the Santa Fe that they could be a railroad or they could be an airline, but could not do both.
uh-huh.
Interesting, because in
Yeah.
Canada we had CP Air. I remember flying on CP Air.
Yeah.
CP had air, they had trucks, they had all sorts of different things, different logos for each division.
Yeah.
So let's see. So let's just fast forward through this here. Oops, I mean
Oh, there's the Clydesdale.
There's the
I've seen that
Clydesdales.
too. Now, what's that thing in the middle? What is that? A grain? Is that a steam tractor? What
Yeah. So
to the left?
there's a steam tractor here.
Oh, and it's pulling a farm implement. Of
Yeah,
some
and
sort?
that's a case 30, and it's hooked up with a belt to a
Uh-oh.
threshing machine.
Here, let me get it back. Sorry. I'll get back.
I don't think we saw that stuff yet. Did
Oh,
we?
yeah. So let me go back to there we go.
There it is.
I was
So,
trying
yeah,
to get a better picture of it.
And that was actually dental floss that I used for the belt between the steam tractor and the threshing machine. And then the smaller belts on the threshing machine were seed bead thread,
Huh.
from the craft section of Walmart.
Interesting.
Trying to get back to it.
Robert, it's a McDonnell Douglas, or I guess a Douglas DC3. Hadn't
But-
merged with McDonnell by that
Yeah.
point.
Sorry, I lost it.
It's
You're
coming
right.
soon, but it's
Is that-
okay. I was just curious what it was. I hadn't seen that whole setup yet.
Yeah.
Every time I click the wrong thing, it goes to the next slide. So
That's okay, Bernard. Don't worry about it.
This was the MOW stuff. Did we get
Yeah,
through
that
already?
was right before James's stuff, I think.
There we go. There we go. That's what we want.
There it is.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I don't think I had seen that whole setup yet. Is that something that you've posted already, that machine?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've posted it. I had several copies of the threshing machine itself for sale at the show, and some people, and so people bought that, and I also had the Case 30 horsepower steam tractor there as well.
Very cool.
And
now, are
both
those models that you're producing?
They're models that I drew up in 3D. The Case one, the steam tractor is based off of one that I saw at Threshing Days in Gospel, Kansas, which is an annual harvest festival that they have there. And then the threshing machine, I just basically chose a random threshing machine and tried to make it as close as I could. A lot of those old threshing machines kind of look the same, and
well, I'm guessing if someone knows what it is, if they saw your model, they'd be like, "Oh, that's a threshing machine, right?"
Yeah. Unfortunately, the threshing machine was one that I just don't have decent photos of because I'm highly allergic to the grain dust, and so getting too close to the threshing machine to take pictures while it's in operation will have me in misery pretty quick.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
That's why you get a drone or hire someone else to do it.
That's right.
Yeah. That's cool. Auto dealerships, right?
Yeah. I don't think
missing those.
I was going to say there wasn't a train on any of these. It was really interesting. So this one was start to finish.
Yeah.
This is the finish. This is the paving, but it's every single, I don't know how long the module is, like 12 feet. I mean, it was a big module. And I think when we go down to the other end, it's literally digging out the roadbed.
That's pretty cool. We've had these people in our neighborhood recently.
So yeah, I'd put this in the sort of the same category as the barge. I didn't expect to see something like this. And lots of cranes. Cranes were big this year. You'll see the next one coming up is, I think we're pretty close to the space shuttle. And the space shuttle was spectacular because, once again, it was a prototypical photograph, and then somebody decided that they were just going to recreate the photograph, which was pretty inspiring. So this has got to be, I don't know, how many feet are we at now? At least 12? Or longer.
Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of vehicles that you don't see them often in real life, and you wouldn't see them very often on layouts, but they would give a credibility to a layout. Do you know what I mean? Because, there's Clem.
Yep.
I recognized him right away.
No.
Yeah.
And you can get all the audio on this if you want to go back and find it and watch it.
You said this video's on your channel somewhere?
Yeah, miniprints YouTube channel. I just didn't think we should be chatting over. He's talking about where I think his stuff is, which I didn't get down to the end, unfortunately.
Is he from that area, or did he come from far away? I thought he was like from south of there.
People came from everywhere for this thing. I mean, I don't know do you know how many models were on the table, James?
I didn't count them, but I mean, there were tons of them.
There must be thousands of models in this place. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
there's this guy is a crane enthusiast. He had the space shuttle, and this is the crane apparatus for lifting it up onto the 747 transport jet. That's even the shuttle Enterprise that they're lifting.
And apparently, I think it was Clem who was mentioning it, or someone mentioned it to me when I was photographing this, that he actually had it suspended the day before. So he had it in the cradle. So the last one, so it was pretty amazing.
What I was going to say a minute ago, before I had a squirrel moment with Clem, was the fact that you don't see these vehicles often in real life, and you don't see them as models very often either. But I'm not going to do it again, Clem. Good try. But having having vehicles like unusual vehicles like this on your layout, I think, especially with a believable scene, would actually multiply or intensify the buy-in by a viewer, right? Of the layout.
Yeah.
What is that? Some kind of an old time car?
It's a Model T. Yeah. Also 3D design.
Huh.
I had a couple of them along at the meet and greet. Robert Martin was asking me to bring them out, so I thought I would.
Cool.
More super cool loads. Tons of really neat loads.
Hey, Bernard.
Yeah.
We have Jennifer bringing us some information that miniprints is really close to 1,000. How close is it?
I think maybe 13 away, 13 or 23. I don't know.
We can get that just on this viewing of this show today.
Really?
Go over to miniprints. Yeah.
I'm running. I've always said that I will run a sale as soon as I get to 988. It looks to me like, so if we hit 1,000, yeah, I've always said that if I hit 1,000, I'll put everything on for 20% off.
Wow. That alone is worth it. Go subscribe and then go place an order.
Or you can hear all the antics on the channel. I don't know how much more of this we want to watch because time is a ticking. Thanks, Heath. Heath is unsubscribing and then resubscribing.
That doesn't. Okay.
That doesn't increase the net subscribers, though.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't. Oh, maybe he wants to unsubscribe here and then go resubscribe over at miniprints.
Oh, well, that could work.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, that would make more sense too because he probably doesn't want to watch my channel.
I'm trying to get to 1,000, not
Right.
58,000.
That's right. We came onto your show, John, specifically to drive subscribers elsewhere.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Oh man.
So, okay, this is the one. This was my favorite model of the entire show. So let me see if I can stop it.
What is that? A plane wing? What is that?
Yeah. So this was beautifully documented. So this won the award for me, my own personal choice award, because I think it hit three things for me. Cool flat car load. So that's the first thing. Cool flat car load I'd never seen modeled before. Wicked history lesson. And absolute stunning fidelity in modeling.
Bernard, that's 4 things.
No, 3.
I counted 4.
I think one of them had a comma.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so 3.5. Well, this guy, someone's going to correct me. I always want to say B29 or B29B, but I think it's the B19. Somewhere on here, if we pause it at the right point, you'll see.
It's a B.
It's a, can I, yeah, so there it is. So there's the model. There are the photographs. It was just an incredible history lesson of this World War II bomber wing, beautifully documented, lots of great eye candy, lots of great stuff to read. And then just like, and this model, like when you were a kid and you'd make airplanes and you'd stretch the fabric over the balsa wood. Did anyone make airplanes like that? It was
yeah, ours were just balsa wood gliders. I don't know that I ever did fabric over them.
Well, there was this thing called dope, model railroad dope. I used to make model airplanes, and you'd get this fabric and you'd put it on top of the wings and you'd paint this really stinky stuff on. Anyway, this really tickled my fancy.
Yeah, the only stinky dope I know was at the Leonard Skinner concert.
There you go.
It's a B-29. I see it there to the right.
Yeah, B-29 bomber wings. So I just thought, and I mean, this could be a good place to end, but I just thought that this was, to me, this symbolized a really cool RPM find. You got it's train, it's history, it's fidelity. This to me it hit all the right notes.
Well, and it's airplanes too, right? There's a lot of airplane foamers, so
yeah,
and automobiles.
Yeah. Planes, trains, and automobiles, right? That's the old movie title, but there's something to that, and military equipment, right? That's the other thing that people seem to like.
So there's the mini prints. I was at 987. Now I'm at 988. So maybe we will Get
12 more.
Yeah, maybe I should unsubscribe. That way you can feel better when I subscribe back on, you'll be, oh, it went up again.
And here's the video if you want the audio or see more of it.
Oh, what's it
That's
called?
right.
Live from the 2023 St. Louis RPM in Collinsville, Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now that looks like a pretty complicated map. What's that?
That's James' hometown.
Yeah. Let me see if I can read any of this. St. Louis Terminal. Oh, I see what this is. You're showing people all the railroads that come into St. Louis.
Yeah.
Huh?
I had no idea. I mean, James really kindly took me around the first night I was there. Oh man, did we have fun.
That was a blast. I went places where I'd never been. So
Wait, are we talking about bars?
Well, that too. Yeah, actually.
Well, I'd been to the bars.
I'd leave it to Bernard to come into town to make you go back to the bars, James.
Yeah, that's right.
There was drinking on the first night.
Yeah. Well, I'd hoped to run into a buddy of mine who owns the place, but they were preparing for a competition that same weekend.
Oh.
I had no idea that St. Louis has like every class one. I mean, there's BNSF, CSX, UP, NS, CN, and because Kansas City was there, now CPKC. So what's that? 6 class ones?
I think that's all of them. Does
That's all of
Ferromex
them,
go
yeah.
through there too? Is Ferromex a class 1?
I don't know.
I see a lot of Ferromex power on the BNSF trains coming through town.
See, now there's a good trivia question because no one ever thinks about the Mexican Railroad, but Mexico's part of North America.
Yeah, that's true. So someone needs to Google class 1 railroads and give us a definition.
Yeah. I know Ferromex has the big modern power.
I'm
asking my computer right now. Ferromex is Mexico's most important railroad, one of 8 class 1 railroads in North America.
There you go.
So I wonder what the other one is.
Amtrak is considered class 1.
Is it?
Yep, and they're there. So according to this thing called Wikipedia, Amtrak, BNSF, CN, CPKC, CSX, and SUP are the current. Those are, they say, Canadian and American.
Huh.
Yeah.
So they're all there. And I had no idea. I mean, I knew that it was a cool place, but if you are into class 1s, then you're into St. Louis. But that wasn't even the thing for me. The thing for me was, because I love short lines, this blew my mind. This was the first night James showed me the Terminal Railroad. Have you ever heard of this?
Yes.
I had heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had never heard of this before.
I think I had heard of this because someone in a presentation somewhere along the line in the past 10 years actually models that, or they talked about the possibility of modeling it and explained what it was. So I'm like, oh, well, that would be kind of cool. So why don't you go ahead? Yeah, explain it.
Well, I mean, this was based on what James said and then a little Google search, but it's a railroad whose main purpose or only purpose, and I think the railroad too goes back to like the late 1800s, and they built like the first bridge. I mean, they were ferries and bridges before they were railroads. So there's a huge.
I think, in fact, the track that goes right under the St. Louis Arch is Terminal Railroad Association property.
So we're talking like 100 years of transportation plus here. And as I understand it, and I'll probably get it wrong, but the purpose of this railroad is to interchange between the class 1s, which is pretty cool. I mean, think about modeling that. You've got, an interchange track for a class 1, an interchange class for a track 1, and then you get this really cool looking, set of locomotives going back and forth. I mean, if that's not a prototypical, track plan, I don't know what is.
Yeah, cool.
But since we're talking trains, that wasn't even the best. I mean, that kind of blew my mind. But I think this was the best for me because they're everywhere. I mean, I don't know how they were jumping out of the trees at us, weren't they, James?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, this is up there's I guess that red locomotive. No one's going to see me pointing at my screen, but that red locomotive.
That one right there.
Yeah,
I see it. It's right there.
yeah. That red locomotive is an older paint scheme for the Terminal Railroad Association, and then the green one there is Illinois Terminal.
Is that an old MKT? What is that? It looks like their paint scheme, doesn't it?
That I couldn't tell you. Now it has dynamic brakes,
Oh,
which may rule out MKT heritage.
yeah.
But that is the Illinois Terminal paint scheme.
And
Okay.
was Illinois Terminal another one of these interchange short lines, or was it its own?
They do more industrial service, from my understanding. So
Oh, Dave Hammer's on. He seems to know about IT.
yeah.
I just love, for me, I mean, these are all things that I've never seen before, right? So, it's just, if you want to see new cool stuff. But that wasn't, so where was this? Where were we, James?
This was all in Granite City.
Right. That's right. Okay.
In fact, that red locomotive, that end cap switcher was right across from those GP38s in the previous frame. And that Illinois Terminal, that was around the corner a ways.
And I don't think there was another locomotive behind that IT. I don't think I got a good picture of it, but it was also something interesting.
Yeah, and that was yet another railroad, the Port Harbor, and they actually primarily switch out the various grain terminals and that sort of thing along the Mississippi.
I mean, they were everywhere. This was neat. This was my favorite, though. You want to see my absolute favorite of it? This probably my favorite. Well, not my favorite of the trip, because my favorite of the trip was
the one you drove, obviously.
Yeah. This was. I love switchers. I absolutely.
Yeah. And I love the creativity of the paint scheme on this thing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. How did they come up with that idea?
Yeah. Can you make it
I think
yellow?
we'll just go with yellow.
Yeah. How about a little swoosh? Nope.
Just yellow.
Yeah.
Just yellow.
Wait a minute. But hold on a minute. It's yellow with a yellow swoosh. You just can't see it because it's yellow.
That's right.
And a yellow logo.
I like the
There's yellow stripes.
I like the yellow star on it too. Yeah.
It adds.
You see the guy on the end there, John?
Yes.
Remote control belt pack operator. So this was actually a remote control. We Googled it while we were there. It's an SW1200. Unlike the SW1500 that we'll talk about, this is SW1200, and we looked it up, and it seems that it's original to the plant, because if you go and you look up the Granite City Steelworks, this was at the, I guess, what is it, USS, United States Steel now. This was purchased in, I think, 56 or 57 by the mill. So, I mean, one could guess that it's been in continuous operation since it was purchased, and now it's a remote control unit, and the guy operating it is belt packing it. You want to see it and hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is us having too much fun. You ready? Okay, you could tell me if you can hear the audio, okay? Because Dr. Mini here with
James Regier
of James Regier Incorporated.
Yeah.
And we are at
Granite City, Illinois. This is Granite City Steel.
It sure is, isn't it? And boy, did we have some luck today, didn't we?
Yeah, about 1244, and here he is coming back again.
He's coming back. Oh my, he's doing some serious switching here.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, 1244.
It's kind of hard to hear.
The buildings in the background seem to be a bit over-weathered, if you ask me.
Oh, we did this on the bridge, James. Look at those loads. That's really prototypical.
Yeah.
This guy, look at the operator. Look at him with his foot out.
Yeah.
Look at how the little caps on the exhaust go up. That's also prototypical.
Yeah. That's neat.
3 points of safety, 3 points of contact.
He only has 2.
Yeah. This guy was busy.
I think his back is leaning. Well, no, he's got his 2 legs and his butt. Or, I think he's sitting on the.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was so much fun, and this guy just kept going back and forth. Like, so we were thrilled that we saw him. James spotted him because you saw the crossing grates go down, right?
Yeah. We were just exploring around there. I'd just driven down the road that goes through the steel mill, on the way through town. I had never really stopped or anything, but I'm glad you gave me the excuse to do so because Allison and the kids would probably not be too enthused about it.
Yeah, and I had my head out the window like a golden retriever yelling, "Train!"
Yeah.
We had fun. This was really cool. And it kept going back and forth. And so we thought, we're so lucky we saw a train. And then it went back, and then it went the other way. And we're like, oh, we see it again. And it just kept back. Like it was working hard.
That's the luckiest train ever.
It's the happiest train ever.
It made you happy.
Sure did.
Yeah, that was neat.
Yeah.
The last time I saw you this excited, Bernard, I think it was when we pulled over and saw those tumbleweeds.
Right, and there were no tumbleweeds to be had, unfortunately.
No.
I saw those guys in Colorado.
Yeah. And
all 3 of them.
And this is so James took me to Granite City. These guys took me to Budweiser. I didn't know Budweiser was St. Louis. Shame on me. I didn't do my
Yeah, that's their main place. Isn't it?
Yep.
Right outside of Budweiser is like a little, I guess, yard, engine terminal, whatever. Switchers galore. You can see 1090 back there. And I'd never heard of Prairie Line. I don't know if anyone else has heard of Prairie Line. But
I have to say their paint scheme is a little more imaginative than that yellow one we just saw.
So that was kind of fun. And is there one more train in here? Oh, just the big UP yard. I mean, oh man. This is down by the waterfront. And there's this amazing graffiti wall. There's flood mitigation. So I guess it's so the Mississippi doesn't come up over its banks. Mm-hmm. And it goes 2 miles. And the full 2 miles is all different graffiti artists.
Huh.
So we were just driving along here. I don't know if there's sound on this, but
hi, I'm Josh. I'm Mike.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Josh. Where are we?
We are down by the river, the Mississippi River. We're at the graffiti wall, and we're looking at the Union Pacific.
I don't know if you can hear that.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah. So anyway, we're just down by the graffiti wall, by the UP yard. And
do you know, Bernard, if they actually paid people to do the murals, or do people just show up there and do it?
It was really well organized. Like everyone had a panel. So I don't know if they paid them or not, but it was certainly it seemed like every 8 to 12 feet, there was a different artist.
So this is funny. Last month or, May, whenever that was, you went to Coors, and on this trip you went to Budweiser. So you've seen both of America's really bad beers.
There must be a theme because beer seems to jump out for me, because then I get to this this place where there's this SW 1500 and the guy goes, "You want to go for a ride?" I'm sure. He goes, "We're gonna do some switching." I'm like, "What are you switching?" He said, "We're switching beer."
Yeah. Now, did you get any video of? I don't remember if we got any video there at Second Shift. It's a microbrewery downtown, right on the Union Pacific and BNSF main lines into downtown St. Louis. And so you can go there and you can order your beer and sit in the tap room or on the patio. It was a bit hot that day to sit on the patio, but you can watch the trains go right by.
I really think that for anyone who does these, YouTube meet and greets or meetups or whatever. We were all involved in Sparky 107's meetup. St. Louis has a lot to offer. I mean, from my perspective, from a railfanning destination, I mean, I went obviously for the RPM, but holy moly, I can't wait to go back and just do some railfanning. You're spoiled, James. There's a lot of great stuff there.
No, it is pretty neat. Now, did you get any footage of Vic Smith's layout?
Tons.
Yeah.
But we're talking trains. I mean, I'm going to push John to go next year because the layout tours, John.
Oh, absolutely.
The layout tours, I mean, I got crappy video of a lot of the stuff because I don't know what I'm doing. But man, if you want some layout tours, have we got a layout for you?
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a few worthwhile ones around here.
Yeah. Well, the problem with trying to do layout tours on a trip like that is a layout tour takes an entire day. So you have as many days as you have, or as many layout tours as you have days. And if you're doing other stuff too, I don't know. It can get pretty sketchy just because,
I think Sparky's washing his hands. Looks to me like
right?
Yeah. Come on, Sparky. Yeah. No one would dare.
I think it would be cool because I'm always looking for good layouts, and I've heard nothing but great things about the layouts in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never been before. First time I'd ever been in Missouri, and I honestly can't wait to go back next year.
Yeah.
I mean, for a rail destination. And the funny thing is, so here's the punchline of the whole thing. They have a big boy in St. Louis. I didn't even get a chance to go see it.
Well, yeah, we'll have to do the Museum of Transportation next time for sure.
And then there's a model train store, hobby shop with a layout in it that you were talking about.
K10's Model Trains, another must see in St. Louis. So we got our itinerary cut out for us next time you're out here.
It's funny. My dad always said that we'd be kids in the back of the car and we'd be like, oh, do we have to leave? We still want to go see the big boy or whatever. My dad always said the definition of a good trip is that when you leave, you want to go back and there's still stuff to do.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
So this was a good trip. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, man, you want a talking trains destination. I can't think of,
Yeah.
It
looks to me like there's a whole lot to do and a whole lot to see, which to me makes it a great place to consider doing one of those meetups.
Yeah.
So, or absolutely. Meet and greet. Let's get the right terminology.
Yeah.
So this was, what night was this? Was this the Saturday night?
This was Saturday night. That's Ken Patterson's backyard.
So I don't know if there's audio or not on this or not, but I don't know if you can see it there. But there was we got there, it had been raining. Oh man, there was a storm.
80-mile-an-hour winds.
It was nuts. As a matter of fact, I don't know how to turn the video down, but I think Joshua had to run back because there was storm damage at his mom's house. And I couldn't believe it. When you get there, hang on. Oh, look at that.
Hey, that's George and Lauren.
George.
Yeah. Oh, this is good. I don't know. Can you hear this?
Is that his model?
No. He said we make them trains go woo woo.
Make the choo-choo go woo woo.
Yeah. That's his thing. So, and this was kind of fun for me just because I'd never seen, there's a lot of layouts there, and I'd never seen this layout before, Ken Patterson's layout. So that was kind of fun. So there was a big sort of meet and greet.
That looks like a busy place.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't have to talk about this. There's probably other stuff to talk about.
Yeah, there's no charge to visit Ken's house.
That's not what I heard.
And there was a really nice here. Let me just see if I can stop it on. Yeah. So I mean, there was a big group of people. So I don't know if I can get a crowd shot. But one of the things that was really nice is, I see someone there in front of me.
Yep.
it was nice just to see, a whole bunch of people, people that you had met before, hadn't met before, and it was a hangout.
Yeah, it looks like a great excuse to hang out with a bunch of people.
It's totally a great hangout.
Yep. Roy says he needs to add truck parking.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
You need a big turnaround, right, to park the trucks there.
Yeah. Yeah, Susan Road may not be the best for trucks. That's for sure.
High rail vehicles.
There you go. So what's this place? It looks very busy.
Well, this would probably be my second choice for a meetup, and I was motoring. So it's for me. I don't know how long a drive is it for you to get to the RPM, James?
For me to get to the RPM, about 15 minutes.
Okay.
20 minutes.
So I did, I think, well over 1,000 miles. I think 900 miles, 1,000 miles. So it was 1,300 kilometers. So we can figure out what that is and whatever. No, more than 1,300. So it was 1,300 each way. It was 2,500 kilometers for me, total return trip. So I'm passing by all these fantastic places, and I asked. I used the magic of Facebook, and I asked people where I should stop. And the number one vote was this place. This is a place called Marion, Ohio.
Huh.
I don't know if anyone's been to Marion.
I've heard of it, but I've never known that they had quadruple, 2 sets of diamonds like that. That's crazy. Which one do you watch? I mean, how do you decide?
Well, I got a funny video of that because I was standing. So that's Union Station in Marion. And Marion is a fascinating place. So you can see that there is a GP40-2, an NS GP40-2 on the track in the upper corner. So that's the switcher. And then there's the north-south track over by the, there are 2 north-south tracks over by that NS switcher. And those are north-south, Norfolk Southern. So that's NS north-south. Mm-hmm. Then the other 2 north-south tracks to the left of that are CSX. And then the cross tracks going through the middle of the frame are BNSF and CSX. So you get BNSF action on the CSX tracks. So you've got a possibility of 2, 4, 6 tracks. And the rule is whoever gets there first. So you will get people honking and ringing and dinging and waiting. And it's probably one of the busiest places I've been. Because
do you have any idea who dispatches the interlocking there?
I don't know anything about this. I just like trains and stop to look at them.
I just like trains.
Yeah. So of course I'm sitting there, and I don't know if you can see on the, I guess it's the right-hand side here. Let me try. Can you see that cursor on the screen? Okay,
yeah, I see that tower.
That's a tower. Uh-huh. And it's all open. Like you can go up and stand on the.
Oh, you're allowed in it?
Well, you're not allowed in it, but you can go up the steps and their platforms that overlook it.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm standing up there watching, what's happening here. And of course, you would not believe the sound of trains going over double diamonds. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. No, I've heard them. It's wonderful.
It's deafening,
yeah. You're literally screaming at the person beside you. It's so loud. And then all of a sudden, I'm like flying the drone over here, and I turn around, and then there's something over here. So you literally have stuff just whipping by in all directions. I mean, if you have any ADHD, this is not the place for you because it's
or it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this place put on quite a show, and it's there is a Heath is right. There's a virtual Railfan camera, and I believe it's on this diamond right here. So the one closest to the tower. And you can watch stuff go back and forth.
Seems like a cool place.
Well, I mean, I only had an hour there in the evening, and then an hour there the next morning. So I was there for a couple hours, but I have just oodles and oodles of video from trackside on the GoPro and above from the drone. But that's not why I will forever love Marion in my heart. And this is what I was talking about. So this is Marion Industrial.
Mm-hmm.
So this is 10,000 feet of track. And when I Google mapped it, it's over 2 miles from one end of the other. And it all interchanges. I think they said it interchanges with CSX. So there's a little interchange track that comes in on this end over here. And they've got this really cool balloon loop over here. So they've got one of those, I guess, what are those? Those PBX auto reversers.
Right.
That changes the polarity.
Yeah, otherwise it won't go.
Yeah, exactly. So, this is like their track plan, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm motoring along here. I'm motoring along 309. And the first thing I see, I go over a bridge, and all of a sudden I see this track coming in on this end. And it's like going through like a kid's baseball diamond. I'm like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like, why is there like a big track going through this park? And then I'm zipping along 301 here. And you see through the buildings, there are all these little gaps. So I'm like, half paying attention. I'm like looking through the gaps, looking through the gaps, looking through the gaps, looking through the gaps. And then all of a sudden I see it. I see like the SW1500. And I'm like, oh, to hell with it. And I turn in over here. Sorry, right over here. I turn in I guess this end, the main driveway in on this end. And I get to the gatehouse and I'm fully convinced, that the guy's going to have, a rifle aimed at me and, tell me to turn around. So I say to him, I'm from Canada. I like trains. Can I go take a picture of the switcher? He's like, oh yeah, man, knock yourself out. And I'm like, do I have to sign anything? Do I have to? That guy's just like, raises the gate, lets me drive in. So I'm heading towards this SW1500, and you'll see in this, I got a little tiny video here. We'll just skip through it. So I'm driving here. Whoops. There it is. I'm driving here, and I see this beautiful thing, right? This SW1500 there.
That's a cool paint scheme.
Yeah. And so I get to it. Whoops. And there's this truck there. And I'm like, oh, shit. They've called security. Whoops. Sorry for language. I'm like, they've called security, right? So I'm like, this guy's coming to intercept me. Like the guardhouse radioed, and he's going to cut me off and tell me to get out of there. Well, this is the engineer and the conductor, and he's sitting in, this is the engineer's truck. Because it's like just 10,000 feet, I've never seen this before. The engineer's in the train, but the conductor just drives along, right? He just drives up and down. Like, this guy's got the cushiest, best conductor job in the history of conductors. Because, most guys have to like get up and down the ladder and slog up and down and, ride up and down and walk, 1,000 feet. This guy sits in his vehicle and goes back and forth, radios the guy. So I get up to him and I'm doing, the old, can I take a picture? And he goes, do you want to go for a ride? So what follows, and I'll just sort of skip ahead. So here I am. Here's the guy, right? There's the engineer. And of course,
you're going to blow the horn.
Probably can't.
All right.
I don't know if you can hear it.
Okay, I'm 8.
Yeah. So I'm like an 8-year-old kid. So then the guy goes, so he's explaining everything, the dead man's, thing. And he's explaining all the controls. And then he goes, hey, you want to do some switching? I'm like, sure, I want to do some switching. So I said, what's in the boxcar? And he goes, it's Constellation Brands. It's filled with Modelo, the Mexican beer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So we proceed to basically just like spend a ridiculously fun amount of time switching boxcars.
Uh-huh.
And then I got him. You probably can't hear it. It's on the page. I got him to say that 9 out of 10 locomotive engineers prefer SW1500s.
Yeah. Do you know why, though? Did he explain why they like them?
No, I told him to say it.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. No, but it's funny because that guy, that was that's Lance. That's his that's his conductor.
Right.
So yeah. So we had a ball.
Looks like it.
Gary and Lance. Gary was the engineer and Lance was the conductor. But whoops, let me just stop this. But I learned something.
Yeah.
learned that I've been doing operations all wrong, which is what you were talking about before. Which here we can put this down now. Or hide it. Whoops. Yeah, I mean, I'd never experienced the relationship between a locomotive engineer and a conductor. And I'd operated on layouts and I kind of knew it in theory, but watching these guys work, it was fascinating. Just the communication and the way they, you can't drive if you can't see where you're going. And, it just the two of them had specific jobs. And it was really interesting to see the interplay and the communication between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's true. I've seen that also.
The only drawback to having two-person crews in a lot of operating sessions, especially on those layouts with cramped aisleways, you double the number of operators by doubling the crews, and suddenly you got a crowd.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do the most prototypical boring model railroad in the history of model railroading. It's going to be a 10,000 foot straight track with a little, River Point pickup truck.
Yeah.
And a 2-man crew. And all you're going to do is just walk 5 feet this way and 5 feet that way. That's it. You're just going to go.
There you go.
Like boom, boom, boom.
although I say that, and I tell you, for the monthly operating sessions at K10's model trains, my daughter Renata has become the second crew member for me. Often she'll hold the throttle, and I'll do the uncoupling and all of that.
So there you go.
Yeah. We do a lot of that, and I think that there's because I don't know if you guys know this, but people who watch the channel as much as I'd like everyone to know that Sydney and I go to op sessions as a matter of fact, we have, I think, 3 op sessions in the next few weeks that we're going to be attending. And I kind of prefer to do them as 2-person crews as well, because I want to either be the conductor or the engineer. I don't want to do both, because now you're wrangling all the papers, got the throttle. It's too much.
You got to push the paperwork off on someone else, man.
It's too much, trying to wrangle all that stuff. So I prefer having 2-person crews as well.
Well,
as a matter of fact, sorry, go ahead, Bernard.
Well, no, the other thing I learned, which I didn't know, is that when I've been on operations, it's always been sort of, and this is why I say I've been doing it wrong. It's always been sort of fast paced.
Oh, no. Yeah, you were doing it wrong.
Yeah. And I mean, not fast paced, but there's always a sense of you've got this stuff that you need to do, and you got to finish one task and get to the next one. And it is relatively fast because you're trying to get your stuff done. I had no idea how incredibly slow prototypical railroading is, and it's slower than I ever imagined. Mm-hmm. Like the number of steps, you read about people who install locks on the fascia, try and slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
But it's even slower than that. It's like you would have to climb down the ladder or get out of your truck. You would need to
walk the length of the cut and
flip a derail, walk to a gate, open a gate, flip another derail. Open a door.
Unlock the lock, then throw the turnout.
And then before you leave with that 100-car train, you've got to have the conductor walk the length of the train and inspect everything to make sure everything is in ship shape. And that can take an hour or more.
It is fascinating for me, who approached it from a model railroading point of view, because my introduction, or sort of my entry into the hobby is scenery. It's not the railroading, but to learn more, and that's why I love this hobby so much, is you're always learning things, to learn more about the actual prototypical railroading and how methodical it is and how slow it is, and how it works in real life. I recommend everybody go trackside and sort of experience it for yourself in whatever form.
Yeah.
I think Sydney made a good point on the comments a minute ago that a 2-person cruise is also a great way to bring new people in, because anytime that I was at an op session and I've had someone who hadn't been there before or wanted to try operations for the first time, it's like, come on, I'll be the conductor. I'll tell you, go forward, 2 cars.
It can be very intimidating that first time. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's easier,
Yeah.
and plus, people that are there for the first time probably want the throttle in their hand. They don't want to be the one making all. Now, some do, but generally they wouldn't want to be the ones trying to make all the decisions because one, they don't really know the layout, and two, they hadn't been there before, so they're not really, they might not know the job as well as someone who has been there before does. So I think that's a good point, and it's a great way, buddy up with somebody.
And if you don't have the throttle in your hand, you're less likely to run through the haze bumper at the end, and
off the end of the bench work.
which has happened to all of us, I'm sure, in one shape or another.
Oh man, and look out if your locomotive has a keep alive and you're heading
Oh
up
yeah.
the
Yeah.
Here, from now on, I'm gonna be like, here, we're doing 2-man ops or 2-person operations. We're prototypical. You take the throttle, and I'll be like, phew.
Right. Well, but the other thing that's funny to me is, and if you talk to real railroaders, the conductors will tell you there's nothing worse than an engineer that wants to be the conductor, because they're like, the conductor's the boss. A lot of people don't know that. The conductor's always the boss of any train. They're the boss on the passenger trains. They're the boss on the freight trains. They tell the engineer, go forward or go backwards, this far or that far. The engineer just pushes the buttons and pulls the levers. There's a lot of people, I think, don't realize, like, I want to be a train engineer. Okay, well, I mean, that's cool if you want to be a train engineer, but do you know what they do? And I don't know. When it comes to operations, I kind of like being a conductor because I like trying to figure out, okay, if I put that car there, then this one's going to be in the way. I got to do the runaround, and we got to bring that one back over here. Oh, wait, that's a facing point. Oh, shoot, how am I going to get that? And
Although
I like that.
The other aspect of being the conductor is that you're the sap that has to walk the length of the train and make the cuts and do all that stuff.
Well, right, but
the
that's why
engineer just gets to sit in his chair in the cab, and and while the conductor's doing that, of course, he's not allowed to touch a thing. He can read a book, do anything, but don't touch the controls because you got a man on the ground.
Right.
So in the latest and prototypical railroading, because just coming back to the whole fact that we're talking about a RPM, P standing for prototype, I really think that I'm going to say, and this could be controversial, I think we should go to 2-person crews. I think we should simulate snow indoors.
Yeah. What else? Have running water on the layouts?
Yeah. Somehow simulate doing the conductor moves in the driving rain. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and bring prototypical meteorological weather indoors to the conductor experience.
Hey, well,
they work hard.
While we're having all this fun, we ought to bring in the FRA and all the paperwork too.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think
and if you derail on that layout, then you should have the full drug tests and all that stuff.
And Steve 87th suggested that there's some sort of waiver that you could lose a finger.
Oh, so if there's an accident, you have to chop your finger off too.
That would be prototypical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to turn off of this whole prototype.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to just running in circles.
Yeah.
The 4x8 is looking.
Get my 4x8.
Yeah. It was fascinating. And thanks to James and for showing me around St. Louis. I mean, John, you got to go next year. It's such an amazing city.
Yeah, seriously, we can host you.
You're okay. Well, I might take you up on that. Oh man. Well, yeah, that you're really selling it actually. I mean, I never thought I'd want to go to St. Louis, but I kind of do now.
Hey, it's good barbecue, man.
Well, I mean, as long as you get real beer though, that's the other thing.
Oh, it's a beer.
You know what? That's the beauty of it. Since InBev took over Anheuser-Busch, there's been a number of people disaffected with the brewery, a lot of brewmasters and all that. So there is a huge microbrew culture around St. Louis that there's literally dozens of microbreweries now.
Oh, cool.
And growing. So it's
a dangerous city.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk between now and then, James, and try to figure something out. Whether
Bernard, you're going to have to bring a bigger car to haul back all the different varieties of beer.
We got beer, we got barbecue, we got trains. Containerman 68, he's sold.
How about beer-BQ?
Yeah,
that's where you have beer at the barbecue.
Just I got to warn you about the St. Louis style pizza. It's kind of an acquired taste.
Why? Was it St. Louis style pizza?
It's cracker crust, which is cool.
I like that.
It's a bit higher acidity tomato juice or tomato sauce, and it's Provel cheese, which is essentially a mix of mozzarella, of provolone, and various other cheeses, sort of processed like Velveeta, so it's almost liquid at room temperature.
That sounds nasty. They put that on the pizza?
Yeah, I mean locals love it. For the rest of us, it's a bit of an acquired taste that, you know, it's something that you eventually learn to make peace with.
But does your stomach make peace with it?
Yeah, eventually. I don't know.
Yeah, when it's all gone.
I mean, we've all had processed cheese before, so I mean, you know, it's basically the same thing. Once you get over that fact, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, something to think about.
Yeah, one thing that was really striking at the RPM meet this year, you know, I mean, there were all of different vendors, but the number of smaller vendors who were doing 3D printing, various 3D parts. There was I think it was what was it, Southern Grain or one of the manufacturers was specializing in grain bins, grain conveyors, augers, all of those things that go into creating grain facilities or creating farm scenes on the layout. 100% 3D printed, and it's just amazing how the number of manufacturers has exploded with the availability of that production system.
Mm-hmm.
And really niche stuff too. Like, for example, you mentioned the grain bin. I think he might have had a sister company or another one, all steel mill stuff.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You start to see, you know, these little, once again, the word of the night for me, niches. You know,
Right.
Sort of. It's really fascinating to see. I mean, everything's available now, I guess, or is rapidly becoming available in terms of, you know, not only the vendors selling it, but I would argue that a vast majority of the models on the tables were either 3D printed or had a 3D printed component to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like those cranes were all 3D printed, weren't they, James?
Yeah, they were all 3D printed, and all the remote control equipment was 3D printed and designed to house the motors and the wiring and all of that stuff. I mean, it's really amazing the stuff that you could do. I mean, even my Beep model here, like with the lighting and the way that I like to do it, like just dismantle it here a little bit. I actually designed the headlights on this thing so that they're actually individual headlight pockets, so that the LEDs can sink right in there. The lens goes on the top. You know, that you don't even have to use the shrink tubing on it because the LEDs are right there, and you don't have the light bleed or any of that going on. But yeah, it's really amazing just how custom you can get with those things. And you know, if you know what you're doing, then you don't have to wait for the manufacturers to be able to profitably make a model in order to have it. You know, and you don't have to do brass. You don't have to have particular scratch building skills. Some modeling skills, sure, but you know, you can make a model and then make copies, and you know, whoever wants it can get it. You don't have to have that huge production in order to make it worthwhile.
There was a young guy there. Oh geez, I'm gonna forget his name. But the company is Apogee Locomotive Works. I don't know if you bumped into him, James. He's super young guy, like in his 20s, doing one-off, like really, really obscure, rare, interesting locomotives. Just a genius. Like, I mean, brilliant 3D printer guy. Really created a really neat business for himself over the last 3 or 4 years. I don't know how old he is, but I mean, he's got to be early 20s. And I apologize, I blanked on the name.
Yeah, I know my friend. I don't know if you saw his area there. My friend Robbie Hansen here in St. Louis. He's really taken to designing 3D models of various Bud cars, and the different customizations that the different railroads had of them. One of the models that he's made, in fact, is of the William Barstow Strong track theater car that the Santa Fe had. And in fact, at this show, he even brought an entire T-track module that he had 3D printed with a railroad overpass based off of a prototypical photo. And just the design elements that you can work into it. It just really frees up the modeling so that if you can imagine it, you can do it.
The guy's name is Aaron from ALW, Apogee Locomotive Works.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Amazing work. And yeah, I mean, controversial statement number 37 for the evening. I think, 3D printing might be the most revolutionary thing to hit our hobby, certainly in the last X number of years. You can say 5 years, 50 years, you fill in the number, but, we certainly saw it to come full circle. We definitely saw the 3D printing revolution at the RPM this year.
What I'm interested in watching is how people adapt technologies that weren't even necessarily meant for model railroading, and they use them in model railroading. Like a friend of mine who's no longer with us, sadly, we had a show here on TSG Multimedia channel about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was all about technology and model railroading. And he was talking about all of the automated things that you can do in your house using your phone, and something called MQTT or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I kind of was getting the gist of it when he was there and I was asking questions. But people use these things because it's just conditional stuff. Like, is this true? Then do it. If it's not true, then don't do it, kind of deal, where, you can tell your phone, turn the lights on at home. And the phone's like, sure. And then your lights come on at home. You could be anywhere in the world and do that. And you say, well, why don't we just use that on our railroads? Throw the switch. Just, using an example here. And they do. I thought that's pretty cool. And 3D printing, I don't think was intended, right, necessarily for modelers or hobbyists, but there it is. And people use it in all kinds of very interesting ways. I think that's fascinating to watch. Something that a friend of mine, there's a question. I want to make a point, and then I think you should answer that question, James. And then we have some other stuff to share, but we have only 7 minutes left on our appropriated time. But let me just say this. My friend Murph, that I'm going to see, people watching know Murph as the guy with the wine who talks about NCE, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is a 3D printer guy. And he uses 3D printing for all kinds of very interesting. I want to do a show about this, actually. Very interesting stuff. For example, I'm not talking about detail parts. I'm not talking about details for scenes. I'm talking about really utilitarian things. Like, he designed and prints special little brackets to hold his DCC and sound stuff in his DCC installs that he does.
Yes.
Right. He created a thing for painting wheel sets where you close it on the thing and you can spray the wheel sets and it automatically masks off the wheels because it's printed to the right size. Stuff like that.
Or if you're doing a remotoring on a brass locomotive, right? You can design a brand new cradle fairly quickly that'll put your shaft height the right level to go into your worm system and all of that.
Yeah. All that stuff. I don't think people necessarily think of 3D printing for those purposes, but I think it's a genius way to solve problems, because really that's what we're doing.
I think there's a whole bit. I won't say every day, but certainly every week, I get a request from someone to do a specific gear, for a locomotive that might have cracked or is out of production. I don't do that because, they're one-offs and whatever. But I'm sure there's a whole business model, that someone could do, and maybe people are doing it, for specific parts of
Absolutely. Although the one question that I would have about gears is all these, the fundamental problem with resin printing, especially, is that it tends to be fragile. And so, how would the gears, which are under constant stress, how long would they last as 3D prints? Yeah. Now I know that through Shapeways, and this is pretty expensive, but you can send them a 3D file, and they'll do a lost wax brass casting of it, which would be a possibility to add durability. But that's always been one of the things that I've puzzled over when it comes to gear design.
I think they're coming out with all sorts of new resins that are, there's always new combinations of strength and flexibility. And I'll bet you they probably have a super strong resin. And if not, the beauty of 3D printing is even if it lasts 6 months and wears out,
you can build it again. Yeah.
You're just print out 6 of them and, every year pop in a new gear.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, that's exactly what happened with my Beep. The original that printed 2 years ago ran into some tragedy somewhere. I think got knocked on the floor or something like that, just got shattered. So, it's not a huge deal. It's time consuming, but I could readily make another one. Now, before we get too far afield from this, I think we should address the issue of learning how to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. And the program that I probably use the most, because it's free online, it's super powerful, it's Mac compatible, is the software Blender, which is designed, it's designed for doing complex 3D animations and videos and stuff like that. So in some ways, for doing the 3D models that we'd use for model railroading, it's a little bit like using a Buick as a fly swatter in some ways. But for programs like Blender, which is an open source program, there's actually quite a few tutorials right here on YouTube that'll take you from ground zero, starting out with the 3D modeling process, to actually designing things that are pretty convincing. And from there, it's just a matter of practicing and learning new things. And the number of times I've been able to go in when I'm trying to figure out how to do something and type into Google, how do you do X in Blender? And there's a bunch of answers readily there. So it's definitely a thing that you can learn while doing. Mm-hmm. But for those that aren't really inclined in learning a whole new software system, there's actually a whole host of 3D files that are available online through various sources, including Thingiverse, that are specifically built for model railroading purposes. And so if you buy that 3D printer and get those files, then you can print them out and use them on your layout, and they're ready to go. And the 3D printers have, resin especially, have come way down in price. That, I think I saw that the latest edition of the Anycubic Photon Mono X is now $250 or so. That's like the cost of that's less than the cost of a premium locomotive these days.
Yeah, think of the things you could do with it.
But all the things that you can do with it, the possibilities are really limited only by the imagination.
Mm-hmm. But I will throw in a caveat here, because I think it does have to also be said in the same sentence that James and I are into it and we enjoy it, and it's become a hobby unto itself. And certainly in my case, I've made a business out of it, and it's how I pay the bills. And James, I know you're selling it now, but I saw, and I have to commend him for doing it. I can't remember which YouTuber did it, but he did a whole, and it was a model railroad YouTuber who did a whole video on why you should not get into 3D printing. And it was really interesting because it sounds counterintuitive, but it does become a hobby unto its hobby. And I don't know about you, James, but I haven't actually touched my own model railroad.
That's sort of the problem. You're designing all these 3D things, and suddenly it becomes so much fun that you have all these models and you don't have a layout to put them on. And it's like,
so I'm going to throw a little asterisk in here, and this is a whole nother show for a whole nother day. It's messy, it's stinky, it's toxic, it's addictive, and it takes time away from the hobby. So
sounds like my marriage.
I'm not going there, but I will say it's
hopefully not toxic, John.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I had a guy come up to me and said he was a contractor, and he said there was a contractor that came up to me and he said, I want to get into 3D printing because I want to make holders that I put on the wall for my batteries, the Ryobi and all those battery things. He wanted to 3D print a whole bunch of the holders that he could stick on the wall and, hang all his batteries off of these plastic holders. And I said, no problem. I said, you could get the machine. They're cheap. You could teach yourself. You could, it's very enjoyable. You'll have this incredible thrill of, printing the thing and sticking it on the wall. And it's like, when you drew a picture as a kid and stuck it on the fridge, and you'll feel really proud of yourself. I said, and, a month or two from now, you'll have that one printout and you'll feel great. Or you could go to the local hardware store, spend $14.99 and solve the problem. So it really depends what your motivation is. If you're a techie person and you like getting your hands dirty and you're into designing like James and I, it's fantastic. But I've turned my layout on twice, maybe 3 times in the last 3 years. So pluses and minuses, like everything else, is all I'll say.
Yep. Well, try making videos about train stuff.
Well, there you go.
Right. I've talked to people, and I try not to take phone calls much of the time because it takes so much time. And sometimes, like on a Monday, I'll just be like, oh, I got to call a couple people. It takes the whole damn day to call people because I get talking and I'm catching up with people. It's stuff. I mean, like, I got to do it. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, I could have had another video out after editing today if I hadn't talked on the phone all day. So it's a real trade-off in time. So I get that. Yeah, I get that. And actually the 3D printing is a real rabbit hole because you could find all kinds of stuff that you never thought you would do and do it.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys that. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's basically how I made the steam tractor. I was sitting around at Christmas, like just kind of wasn't doing much of anything. I think at my sister's house, and I just was like, well, shoot, why don't I design this tractor that I saw at threshing days, and suddenly it comes out. I mean, that's the big advantage that you can do it just about anywhere, that you have your computer, and feel like you're building models, but then you do wind up doing a lot of it instead of actually building a layout.
Sure.
Now you can kick us off anytime you want. I'm expecting a giant hook to come out soon.
We have to do one more thing before we go. So we should go because we're 4 minutes over our allotted time. But the beauty of this is not network TV, so we can go over. It's okay. We don't have any sponsors. Well, we do, but they're not on this show, so that doesn't matter. But I do want to talk about the 3Ds, the mini-mes that you made, Bernard, because Sydney you sent us some, or she ordered them, or I don't know how she got them, however she got them, and she painted them. And this is me painted. Now, I know that there are different ways of doing things, but I thought when I saw it, aside from the fact that there's no face, I thought that captured the look pretty well of me out doing my thing. Anybody who's been chasing trains with us knows this is the outfit. It's not always that bright green shirt, but that's pretty much what you get.
Right.
And she printed it herself. Looks like she has very, very bad acne on this. Sorry about that.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
You know,
but-
it's funny because I am doing a clinic and I'm photographing like HO scale figures.
Uh-huh.
They don't photograph well because when you see an HO scale figure a foot or two away on a layout, you'll instantly know it's you. But the camera's so unforgiving. Like if you put those on the layout and looked at them, you'd be like, oh my gosh, how'd you get a John or a Sydney on the layout?
Absolutely.
And getting that macro focus in just right is a huge challenge as well.
It's brutal. It's like I'm trying to photograph these things now, and it's really, it doesn't do them justice. Like I'm sure, when you put these on a layout in context and, people are looking at them from a few feet away, they're going to look spectacular.
Yeah, these do look better in person. I do have to say that because what you said, Bernard, is the $1 million answer, which is at viewing distance down on the layout, you can't see the face anyway. And I was joking earlier. I said I look better like this anyway.
Well, the neat thing is, now Bernard has scanned. He scanned you. He scanned me. He scanned Joshua. He's scanned Mike, Buddy. He scanned Ken. So now you have all your, and Sparky as well. Now you have all your, Model Railroad YouTube personalities that you can have action figures of, and do
you know what I'm waiting for? The person that puts them all in the train wreck and kills all of us in one fell swoop.
Oh, there we go.
Well, it's really fun. And I mean, I've got this whole bunch of mini-mes. So if you go to miniprints.com and then /mini-mes, you'll see all the scans I've done. And that was, as we talked about the point of, one of the points of going down to St. Louis was to scan a whole bunch of people. I think I did 37 scans down there. And I'm going down to Texas next week. And I've got another 40-ish, whatever, scans that I'm doing down there. And it's really just, a chance to meet people and have some fun. And, it really is amazing technology. But I'll be doing a clinic down there specifically on figure painting. And I've come up with a few tips and tricks of sort of how to make things look a little less globby and a little bit more refined. And, a few tips that I steal from other places on the internet. So I will do that clinic in a week. Come and join us if you are in Texas. And then I will put it online in some way, shape, or form afterwards. And we can even talk about it at some point if you're interested.
Yeah, Bernard, I was thinking about that. I don't know if you remember, but 4 years ago when I first started talking to you, I had you come on for something on a Saturday morning called TSG Live Model Railroading. That sounds like it could be a really cool clinic for that. If you want to have a large audience for it, I'd be willing to have you on for that sometime.
Yeah, no problem. And I've got this GoPro, and if you could probably help me with the technology, but one of the things I've always wanted to do is have sort of a top-down macro camera, so that when you're sort of sitting there doing something, people can actually see it. So
sure,
that might be fun to get some technology out and try and show some of the techniques close up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that sometime in the future. Just let me know when you're ready to talk about it, and we'll figure it out.
First I got to write the clinic, but that'll happen in the next few days.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. I mean, I've seen your presentation. You're great at presenting stuff, so I'm always up for that.
It's fun. I like painting, to be honest. I actually find the painting parts a lot of fun.
Sure. I mean, it's like for me, weathering a car or something, I found to be actually kind of relaxing.
Yeah.
You get in the zone and you kind of see the results of what you're trying to do. And it's like, oh, that looks really good, or not. But yeah, so it's a long time coming. This is how, I'm not even kidding when I tell you, people watching, I'm not even kidding when I tell you how busy I get. Bernard, we've been wanting to do this TSG thing with miniprints for months now and just have never got around to it. So do you?
Put the slide back up.
Oh, do you have a slide that you want to share?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Hang
can
on.
you share that and I'll put it up on the screen?
I just threw this up super fast, so it's going to be the world's ugliest, fastest slide. Let's go play. Here we go.
Bring that up because
this one.
I'm talking about this one.
All right. So this is our super fancy big budget slide. So this is the picture of you with a face.
Yeah. And you forgot to take my belly off. What's that all about?
Body sculpting is available, but that's an additional fee.
Cost extra.
You want to hear a quick aside that's quite interesting?
The only problem is that when you do the body fixing on the minifigure, it doesn't really help the
real
one-to-one scale figure.
The prototype.
They're using this type of body scanning in gyms.
Oh.
And they've got really, really sophisticated software where you go in and I guess your bathing suit or your Speedo, and it measures everything. So you do the scan, it's perfectly accurate. And then you go through your training routine and they constantly scan you so that you can see scientifically, what's happening.
Huh.
So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So we scanned you and Sydney, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Back in, was it the Rocky Mountain Train Show?
Well, I got scanned at the Rocky Mountain Train Show, and then Sydney got scanned at the YouTube meet and greet that happened in May.
That's right. And we've been talking about this for ages, but
yep.
Today we'll unveil this fantastic promotion that if for anything that you buy at miniprints.com, so if you go to miniprints.com and place an order or anything, $1, whatever you want, and you put in the code TSG, there's like a little discount code at checkout, TSG, you will get a free U. So in the scale of your choice. So N, H, O, S, or O scale. If you would like a little John,
that's what she said.
a mini John, a wee John.
There aren't any bigger ones, unfortunately. You get what you get.
If you want a little mini John, and if you want to practice painting it or hold it until we do the painting clinic, and maybe we'll paint you or something for the painting clinic.
Oh, there you go.
Or we'll figure it out. But yes, if you would like your own miniature TSG John, as I'm calling him, then just enter the code TSG at checkout at miniprints.com, and I will be very pleased to send whoever would like one of you. And I don't know, we'll do it, say, for the next month until middle September.
Until supplies run out. You've printed like 3 of them.
While quantities last. Exactly.
Yeah. Good. While supplies last, I think it's the terminology
and
for
you
the.
do not even need to send 3 box tops.
Oh, right. You know what I'd like to do also is if anybody takes you up on this, I'd like to see pictures. So send me pictures of me on your layout. And
absolutely.
I'm so bad at this promotional stuff that I can't think of any good ideas, but I'm thinking, if you send me one that I really like, I'll send you something. I'll send you a DVD or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll come up with something, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, any order that is placed and you throw TSG in there, I'll throw in a John at the scale of your choice or the scale of your order. You can choose whatever scale you want.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, maybe you'll get a little painting competition going or something.
There we go.
Maybe people can add eyeballs to your next.
Yeah. And I can look like the,
And you'll even throw in a Porta John.
Yeah. I don't remember which one of these guys it was, but either Roy or Cameron gave me a N-scale porta potty when we were at the meet and greet. I thought that was a great present. Well, I still haven't used it, but
I want to see what scene they put you in, what you're videographing, what you're taking pictures of.
Well, I mean, it would have to be a train, wouldn't it? That's
the question. What is it?
Or actually, you know what? It should not be a train in that pose. And I'll tell you why. Generally speaking, I do not go handheld when I'm filming trains. I only go handheld when I'm doing like chasing trains when I'm talking to people. So
You were using handheld when we were on the it wasn't the Georgetown Loop, it was the
Yeah, I was.
Royal Gorge.
Wait, so you're saying this is not a prototypical print of you rail fanning?
Well, but it is though, because when I'm rail fanning, almost inevitably I'm chasing trains as well, making a chasing trains episode.
Yeah.
And this is the chasing trains me. That hat, that shirt, that, you know, the camera with me taking a picture. So I should probably be filming someone who's talking.
Okay.
So if you have an Alvin, or if you have a Michelle or a Sydney or a Jennifer or you guys, that would be who I'd be filming with this setup.
Well,
So
they all exist. If you're interested, just if people are interested, if you go to the miniprints.com/mini-mes, and I don't know if anyone wants to throw it in there, you can see, you know, all the different characters. And it's so cool because I was so happy because at one point someone picked up an N scale, and the N scale ones are like, they're like grains of rice, right? Someone picked up an N scale scan that I printed out, and they knew who it was. Like, I don't know, you know, people just have a look about them, you know. So James, you look like you in N scale. So, you know,
with the camera, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, this is
That was
good.
fun.
I would like to have my cameras on tripods for, you know, for the rail fanning John out there.
In O scale, it's easy. In HO scale, it's S scale for sure. HO is iffy, but it's always the N scalers who say, "Now, can you do it in N scale?" And I'm like, "Oh, maybe."
Yeah,
that's
just
awful thin.
You print a little blob.
Legs, man.
You know, you print a little blob and you say, "There you go." Doesn't it look like him?
You get the wire out. You get the 000 wire.
Right.
Yeah. So what's this? Sitting on. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's real good, Roy. Thank you.
There you go.
That's a visual.
Thanks for the visual there, Roy.
Yeah, that's a visual that no one in the world needed.
Well, actually, I do. So go put it on the mini print modeler site. I want to see it.
Oh, God.
Oh man.
Yeah. Put that on your peanut butter lid.
Yes. there is a peanut butter lid competition coming up September 1st. So you could put it on your peanut butter lid.
Yeah, we don't need that. Oh boy. Well, guys, that's my.
What's the longest one of these has ever gone?
Oh yeah, we're not even close. I let me tell you the funny. I'll tell you the funny story about that. So one day, about I don't know 3 years ago, sometime near the beginning of the pandemic, our buddy Dave, you know, Sparky, calls me up, or he texted me, whatever. He's like, "Hey, I got this thing called StreamYard. We should try it out." So I started it up on here, and 4 hours and 8 minutes later, he was like, "We were just going to go on for like, 10 minutes just to try it." But people kept coming on and watching. And that's our joke. It's like, yeah, we ended up with, do you remember? I haven't seen him around lately, but there's a guy, Drew Warrington. He's like probably 15 now, 15, 16 years old. Super cool guy. He's on the East Coast. He volunteers at a heritage train place. And he had interviewed, I think, Lionel. And he interviewed me. I think I was the first interview that he did of YouTubers that he wanted to interview. And like a week later, he interviewed Michelle. I'm like, oh, he's asking everybody. This is cool. I was the first one to say yes, though, apparently. But we got him on that show. And he's like, okay, well, it's a school night, so I got to go now. And I was texting Dave in the background, like, oh, ask him about his layout. So Dave kept him on till like midnight or 1 a.m. his time. It was like, that was something.
Okay, hang on, I'm checking my texts. All right, well, if we're going 4 hours, I'm gonna need another beer.
Yeah, no, we got to go. I got to eat dinner. So, it's funny, and this happens every time. This morning I woke up like, oh, that shows today. I feel like I haven't really prepared, but you guys, I don't know. I have the best guests on this show and co-hosts. I don't even know what I'd do without you guys. So thank you so much for coming on and making it easy to have a conversation about this stuff, because if it was just me on here, it would be boring as hell.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, and
it was
thank
a
you
fun
guys.
conversation.
Yeah, we should do it again sometime. And I asked Michelle when she was ready to come back to host again, and she said get guest co-hosts till the end of the year, and she'll figure it out. So I'm probably going to go on to the TSG train crew first and see if there's any prospective guest hosts that want to come on. But if you guys are willing to come back in October, November, December, let me know, and we'll talk about that.
Sure thing.
So thanks again. Thanks.
Sure we'll have something to talk about by then, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I mean, you're going to be going to the Anna Murray National Convention, so I'm sure there's that in itself will be its own thing.
Wait,
so
first time in Texas.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, there you go. So
yeah, we'll see you there.
Yeah. So you're going, right, James?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. With Model Road Hobbyists.
Excellent. So I think
Cool.
we'll talk offline. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening. So
yeah, if you guys
stuff, and yeah, we'll hook up.
If you guys want to hang out until the end of the credits, we usually do a debrief at the end here. And thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for our moderators who keep things on topic in the chat. I really appreciate that too. And I'm trying to remember what's coming out this weekend. Tune in on Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Every week there's some feature that comes out. Here, let me just tell you. I like to close the show with an action item. So what are we in? August right now? August 16th. Oh, this Saturday coming up, it's the YouTube meet and greet part 2. So you'll see all 3 of us again.
All right.
Yeah. So Chasing Trains YouTube meet and greet part 2. It's a great time. In case you guys didn't see it, I want to mention this because it's a really, really good layout. John Parker's BNSF Fall River Division just came out last Saturday, and it's getting a lot of views. So if you missed that one, look on the channel's main page, and you'll see it there.
I am
right
very
on the
sad I could not move my plane ticket.
Oh man, it's such a great layout, and it seems like John has thought of everything. So if you have a chance, check that out. And I think that's it, guys. We'll be back next month on the 3rd Wednesday, like we always do. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.